comments will come during the regular comments from our community section of the agenda. You're limited to 3 minutes, and if you are on Zoom, you will use the raise your hand function, and we will call on you as well, either during the public hearing, if that's the topic of your comment, or during our general comments from the community. I think that covers our opening conversation here. And so I believe we are ready to call the roll.
Yes, Mayor. Mayor Arnold.
Here.
Councilmember Bliss.
Here.
Councilmember Franklin.
Here.
Councilmember Smith.
Here.
Councilmember Alexander.
Here.
Councilmember Richardson.
Here.
Councilmember Hickson Shepherd.
Here.
All right, to start our evening, we have a proclamation. And I'm going to read our proclamation from here, and then I'm going to meet the Washington family, and the rest of the council as well needs to do that. And I will hand it over and take some pictures, but this way the microphone is in use. Whereas Willa Washington has left a lasting impression on her community, the city of Webster Groves, and the region. She grew up in North Webster, attending Douglas High School, and then transferring to Webster Groves High School, where she was one of the first African-American students to graduate. During her time at WGHS, she played the clarinet, participated in student council, pep club, the Red Cross, and was a library assistant. And whereas Willa moved to Chicago to advance her education to be closer to some of her family, while in Chicago, she earned a degree from the Chicago Teachers College, was a data processor for the Chicago Police Department, and a principal clerk for the Chicago Health Department. Whereas upon moving back to St. Louis, it was full steam ahead for Willa. She taught at the reopened Douglas School, moved on to a long career at St. Louis County, moving through the ranks to the lead of code enforcement, the Code Enforcement Division. She was the first female and first African-American in her field to oversee all residential construction in St. Louis County. And whereas Willa's contribution to Webster Groves were endless, she was an active member of the First Baptist Church of Webster Groves, volunteered at the Webster Rock Hill Ministries, served on committees for the Douglas Alumni Group, Webster Groves School District, and was a member of the City Plan Commission. Always willing to share history on Douglas, she participated in the PBS show Living in St. Louis. And whereas Willa's family was most important to her, and she had a zest for life that kept everyone going, from cooking, entertaining, card parties, family reunions, attending cultural events, and extensive travel, Willa truly had a wonderful life. Now, therefore, I, Laura Arnold, Mayor of the City of Webster Groves, on behalf of the entire City Council, wish to honor the life of Willa Washington and recognize her contributions to our city on this 21st of February, 2023. Let's come stand in the middle, and I will give him
Yeah.
Excuse me.
Thank you. We're moving on to capture that. Sorry. Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, I'm going to talk slowly while pictures are being taken so that we can move on to our public hearing. Our first public hearing is the Webster Hills United Methodist Church Preschool at 698 West Lockwood Avenue, an application by Webster Hills United Methodist Church for conditional use permit to allow a child daycare center use in the existing structure located on a 1.0 acre lot at 698 West Lockwood Avenue in the A4 7,500 square foot residence district. We are now opening the hearing, and our Director of Planning, Mara Perry, has the presentation to begin for us.
All right. Or not.
On screen.
Oh, there we go. It's on the other screen. Okay. All right, so good. Yeah, not working. Wait,
Go.
no, I think it's him moving it versus me. Okay, perfect. All right. So good evening, Mara Perry, Director of Planning and Development for the city. I have a hearing before you this evening for a conditional use permit. This is actually for an amendment to an existing permit. So we're going to walk through briefly what the Plan Commission reviewed in their hearing just a couple weeks ago. They did forward this to the City Council with a unanimous decision of moving this forward with an amendment to that CUP while repealing the two previous ordinances that had been in place on the property. You can see here the property is located at the intersection of Lockwood Court and Northbury Road. It's highlighted in red. It's surrounded on three sides by single-family residential zoning, which includes to the north an additional church, Mary Queen of Peace, and to the west of the property is outside of the city of Webster Groves, but includes both a golf club, a golf course, as well as another building that is owned by the same church that is requesting the conditional use permit this evening. Here are some photos of the existing conditions of the property. You can see pictures of both the church itself that houses the existing daycare, as well as the property across the street. The history is that the church applied for a conditional use permit in 1969 to operate a weekday cooperative preschool for up to 60 children. It was operated between 9 a.m. and 11:30 a.m. and that was approved via the City Council. Then in 2004, it was determined that they did need to come in to extend both the number of children as well as their hours of operation. They expanded it to the total of 80 children, with the hours of operation being extended on Mondays to 3:30 p.m. and Tuesday through Friday to 2 p.m. We always identify the comprehensive plan, but in this case, because it is just a CUP, the CUP is something that they're not changing the actual zoning. It's staying as single family residential with the CUP for the religious institution, which also allows you to obtain a CUP for a daycare use. But we always still identify that nothing is changing in the comprehensive plan. Your 5 factors, which I'm not going to read through thoroughly, but there are 5 factors that you need to take into consideration. Those factors were also considered by the Plan Commission one by one as they moved this forward to the City Council. The analysis related to the use is that the use was already operating and has been operating since 1969. The only request that's being made is for the change to the hours of operation, to expand those hours, which would give, in some cases, more flexibility to both half day and full day. Also, the flexibility that some parents could provide for a little bit longer in a daytime, not just till 2 p.m. There is no request to change the number of children, and they are not currently at full capacity of the 80. They're much lower than that at this time, but they are not asking to change that either. They're using the existing building, so there are no changes to the facilities themselves. We always do a parking analysis when we look at a use like this. There are a number of spaces both within the parking lot to the west of the church, which is shared by a number of uses in the area, as well as the building across the street, which is not in Webster Groves, houses a number of other spaces. So the total between those two locations is 134 spaces. I know they do have another tenant that uses the building across outside of the community. So when they did put in their application, they were very conservative in removing all those spaces that some of their other tenants in the other building use. But they still are above and beyond the required number, which is simply to have a certain number of parking spaces per employees or those that are going to be there for more than 2 hours. The hours of operation that they've requested are 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. during weekdays. Because of the overlap of the type of uses, primarily, obviously, the religious institution has their peak hours over the weekends, but they do use the facility at other times during the week. But that the limitation on this particular use would be 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. There's also no changes again to the structure, so there's no request to make anything change in terms of the dimensional regulations. That's really it, again, because it's just related to hours. You will note there was in your packet a letter that was received from a neighbor who sent that into the Plan Commission, so you did have that on file. The same neighbor did send an additional letter to you in regards to traffic concerns. And I'm happy to kind of walk through the provisions that we would request or would recommend putting in. And then we would recommend that the 2 previous ordinances be repealed because their requirements are being placed into this ordinance. So before I go through this, any questions of the council?
I have one question about the hours, 8 to 5. That's not meaning that every child will be there from 8 to 5. They have different stepping times, 8 to 10, 10 to 12, all that good.
Our understanding, and you can ask the applicant, is that there are some that are more of a half day. And then there are some that would stay longer. And then there would be some flexibility so that if parents were coming at different times, they'd be able to be picking up a little bit later versus that dead stop time that currently lists as 2 o'clock on Tuesday through Friday.
So basically just expanding the hours for 3 hours.
Correct.
Thank you.
This may be in the materials, but I am not positive. Is there a drop off? Are children allowed to be dropped off, or is it all just?
So the way that the parking area works, the entire area along the side of Lockwood Court, which is where the entrance to the daycare is, has a series of signs. There's a section that allows for very short, limited drop off. And there are a number of spaces that say no parking from here to here, no parking here to the corner. The opposite side of the street has no parking at all on that one side. So there is an area where you can come, do limited stopping, walk a child in and come back out and leave. And then there's the other parking spaces at the end of on Berry. And then there are parking spaces if someone wants to stay for any length across the street.
Right. Other questions? Right. Please go ahead, Mark.
So staff would recommend that all provisions of the city code shall apply except as expressly modified in this particular ordinance. Child daycare use shall not exceed 80 children. Hours of operation shall not exceed the following: 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. weekdays. Employees, visitors, volunteers, and visitors staying longer than 10 minutes shall park in the parking lot along West Lockwood Avenue or in the parking lot at 1333 West Lockwood. That's the actual address of their facility across the street. The dimensional regulations of the A4 7,500 square foot residence district shall apply. And the conditional use permit is personal to the applicant and shall not run with the land. And both the ordinances from 1969 and 2004 would be repealed.
Okay. Do we have a representative of the applicant here? Please come on forward, introduce yourself.
Hello, my name is Kyle Cranes-Retz. I am the Next Gen Family Ministry Director at Webster Hills, as well as the liaison that oversees the preschool for the church.
Is there anything you want us to know about this application?
No, I think Mara did a really excellent job kind of explaining that. We do have that loading zone. Just to give you a little more clarity on that, We have about 10 to 15 families on any given day that the preschool is operating that use that drop off. And it is only from 9 a.m. until about 9:10. So it's a very quick drop off. And then after that, they are staying no more than 10 minutes or they are parking in those allotted spaces.
Right. Does anyone have questions?
I just have one question, not relating to this, but didn't Webster Hills sponsor a free summer camp for kids
The
last summer?
Freedom School?
Correct. Our Freedom School. Yes. Mhm.
Well, it looks like we have no questions for you, so I will very kindly thank you for
Thank
being
you.
here this evening.
No, happy to be here. Thank you.
All right, so we are now going to take public comments, wrong pile. And first on my list, Amy Musgraves. If you will come forward and simply let us know what your address is, and then you have 3 minutes.
Hi, my name is Amy Musgraves. I live at 751 Hurstgreen Road in Webster. I'm the other director of Webster Hills. So I'm really just here to answer any additional questions that you have. He's kind of spoke to the one question that you guys had about drop off. Right now we have just like 47 kids at the school. Or 47 families with 56 kids. We haven't been at that 80 amount in a long time, since a few years before COVID. I've been here 14 years. We'd love to build back up to that, but as you spoke about, it would be a staggered time for us, and we would be building to that 5. That's not something that next year we're going to stay till 5. We have to kind of build that back up with families, and hopefully these extended hours would get us additional families, but also to be able to provide that for our families now, because we do have families that are leaving because they need that additional hour. So thank you for listening to our comments.
Sure, thank you. Other comment for the public hearing is from Mr. Dave Buck.
Hello, council staff. Yeah, I do have an important comment. I have always struggled with the 5 points of the your cup evaluation, because they lack humanity. There's no human connection. My twins, Annie and Sawyer, went to Emmanuel Episcopal Church preschool, where Rachel Ludwig is the current director. I talked to Rachel today. And I said, tell me something about Webster Hills preschool. And she immediately talked about Amy, about Christine, about the teachers. I trust Rachel implicitly. That's all I need. I think that's all you need. The other thing I wanted to mention is that I think it triggers another thing, which I think City Council has a opportunity to address what may be the single biggest racial inequity in this city, which is for 67 years after when integration happened and they closed Douglas School down and kids moved to the high school, the academic achievement gap between white kids and Black kids started. It's been going on for 67 years, and it's really been intense the last 20, 25 years. Emerson, you know this. And the gap hasn't closed. When you talk to the experts about where does that gap begin, the start of kindergarten. Why? Because lower income, usually families of color, cannot afford the tuition. You know how much it costs to go to a full day, full week tuition at Walter Ambrose? $11,000. Same with Goddard, same with Montessori. I don't know what Webster Hills is. I know Emmanuel's like $3,000 a year. It's a lot of money for a low-income family. Universal preschool, and you think you can't do anything about it? This guy, Governor Pritzker in Illinois, first of all, he's banned assault weapons. Now he says he's going to go for universal preschools by 2027. He's going to make it happen because he has the political will to do it. And what I would suggest is that you pull all of the preschools together in Webster, the heads of them, the directors, and sit down and say, how can we solve this problem once and for all? Because it has impacted thousands and thousands of Black students in Webster Groves, and it's got to stop. Thank you.
Thank you, Dave.
Thanks, Dave.
Is there anyone else in the room who would like to make a public comment on this particular item? All right, can we check Zoom, please? All right, then I am going to ask Mr. City Attorney, if you will enter our items for the record, please.
I'm going to look at our director of planning. So we would
So-
move for the admission of all documents that were submitted to the Planning and Zoning Commission at their meeting date of
February 6th.
February 6th of 2023. I would move for the admission of all documents tonight, including the PowerPoint presentation.
And 2 letters received by the neighbor, Lucy Jockins, both via email, one including photos, one including a video.
And the list will be provided to Katie at a later time, but that also includes the zoning ordinances of the city of Webster Groves.
Well done, you two.
It's not our first rodeo.
All right, I believe we can now close the public hearing, right? All right, so we will close that public hearing. Thank you very much. You're not going anywhere, though.
Start in the next one.
So we are now moving to our second public hearing for the evening, which is zoning code text amendment on marijuana facilities.
First
We-
and
we
second.
need-
reading.
Oh,
First-
Lord, see, I was so close this time.
You were.
May we have the first and second reading, please? A motion from,
Yes, Mayor, I would like to call for the first and second reading of bill number 9216.
Second.
Bill 9216, first reading, an ordinance granting an amendment to a conditional use permit to Webster Hills United Methodist Church to permit a child daycare use on an approximately 1.0 acre tract of land in an existing structure at 698 West Lockwood Avenue in the A4 7,500 square foot residence district and repealing ordinance 6658 and 8411 and matters related thereto.
all right, are there questions or comments? Let's do the second reading, please.
Bill 9216, second reading. An ordinance granting an amendment to a conditional use permit to Webster Hills United Methodist Church to permit a child daycare use on an approximately 1.0 acre tract of land in an existing structure at 698 West Lockwood Avenue in the A4 7,500 square foot residence district and repealing ordinance 6658 and 8411 and matters related thereto.
Thank you. Now we will move to our second public hearing on zoning code text amendment for marijuana facilities. Proposed amendments include changes and additions to sections 53.021, 53.159, and 53.192 of the zoning ordinance in order to amend regulations for marijuana facilities in commercial and industrial districts. And we are back with, wow, all our preschool friends. It's time to go. See ya.
Thank you.
And we will start with Director of Planning and Development, Mara Perry, for another presentation.
So you have before you this evening a text amendment that was brought forth by staff in order to amend and update based on Amendment 3 that was passed in November of 2022 by the voters. It's important when changes get made on the state level that we address and ensure that our own regulations cover what is needed in order for facilities to be able to properly go within the community. So it does allow local governments to regulate the time, place, and manner. And for those of you that do remember when we did this back in 2019, when Amendment 2 passed and the medical facilities came in, we worked pretty carefully to mirror regulations from the state to provide an opportunity for certain facilities to go in automatically and other facilities to use a conditional use permit. And so we tried to do that the same way in this manner. We tried to match what the facility regulations were in the state regulations to give that ability to add in that time, place, manner, which gives the ability to look at sometimes needing a conditional use permit, allowing residents to have some say in being able to talk about a facility going in, but still having others that could go in automatically. The one thing that changed slightly was that the state this time removed the distance from parks and only left in the distance from schools, daycare centers, and churches. So you will see in your packet, there's a red line of all of the different changes. I'm going to go through some of these rather quickly because there's not much to them. All of the definitions have either been amended or are new so that they match exactly with the state. We included the difference between comprehensive facilities and micro business facilities. The comprehensive includes the medical and the adult use. The micro business is the new grouping that's going to be allowed. All of those match exactly with the state. We then amended our distances. So for example, the 1,000-foot minimum distance is from the educational facilities and places of worship, 500 from child daycare centers. And then there is a separation between facilities. So they can be in the same area, but they're supposed to be 150 feet from one another. There is then an option for if it's closer than any of these that they can apply for the CUP. The map up here is like, this is Old Orchard, for example, and there is a very small area without a CUP. And then with a CUP, they'd have the flexibility to ask for other areas. We did, in making the changes, ensure that we already have in noise, odor, smoke, and emissions, which are in our C and E districts. The hours of operation are already in the code for 8 a.m. to 9 p.m. daily. We made some very minor changes by removing the word medical. And then that allowed us, and removing the public parks, and allowed us to add in the comprehensive and micro business. So very, very minor changes to the code. In the chart for uses, we added in, again, comprehensive and micro business, and added them and matched them along with how we had done it for the medical. And sorry, I'm jumping to something later in the business. And that is the end of the presentation in case there's any questions. It was approved with a vote of 7-1 from the Plan Commission.
All right, I just had a couple of questions. First, in regards to the minimum distance from either the schools or the educational facilities, is that state mandated?
There was a state, it's not mandated, but there's a one in there that, and then it allows you to lessen that number. So some communities that looked at their maps back when the medical happened completely changed theirs because there was no possibility for any places within their community without removing the distance completely. Others did similar to what we did, which was add in an option for a CUP.
You know, and this is a little bit off course, is when we talk about odor, is there a rule in Webster Groves about using marijuana in public? This is, I know off course, and maybe the chief.
Yeah, I was gonna say, that would be
Yeah,
more of a police question
I'm just
and not.
interested, especially as we go forward with this, and it
Yeah.
potentially more prevalent,
Mhm.
just in society in general, and sorry, now that it's recreational, I'm just wondering if, I don't know what other municipalities or other regions have done, but I know, like, for instance, you go to Denver, you walk in a park and it smells like weed, like it's, I don't know, business, you know, but I didn't know what it was like if we had a strict requirement.
Our zoning relates just to businesses and the odor that comes from businesses. Yeah.
So you're looking at our future.
Yeah.
Other questions?
The discussion at Plan Commission with the 7-1 vote, were there any concerns there that need to come forward? Okay.
No concerns.
And I do not think we have an applicant because we're our own applicant.
We're our own applicant.
Are there other questions or comments? All right, do we have any public comments? I do not have any cards on this topic. Just make sure that. Okay. Are you ready for this one, Mr. City Attorney?
Well, I will be.
So-
So we would move for the admission of all documents that were submitted to the Planning and Zoning Commission at their hearing date of
February 6th.
February 6th of 2023. We would move for the admission of the PowerPoint that was presented tonight, including the PowerPoint that was, of course, done at the Planning and Zoning Commission. And we would move for the admission of all of the planning ordinances for the city of Webster Groves. And we will provide a written list to the city clerk at a future date.
All right, I will now close this public hearing and ask Councilmember Alexander to call for the first and second reading, please.
Yes, I would like to call for the first and second reading of bill number 9217.
Second.
Bill 9217, dude. First, an ordinance of the city of Webster Groves, Missouri, amending chapter 53 zoning by amending uses related to marijuana and marijuana infused products in code sections 53.159 and 53.192, and definitions in section 53.020 and matters related thereto.
Are there comments or questions?
Do no.
Dude, no? All right, let's have the second reading.
Bill 9217, second reading. An ordinance of the city of Webster Groves, Missouri, amending chapter 53 zoning by amending uses related to marijuana and marijuana infused products in code sections 53.159 and 53.192, and definitions in section 53.020 and matters related thereto.
All right, thank you. We will move now to our remarks from the community and visitors. I have a few cards here. We're going to start with Mr. Alex Lawrence, who is visiting us from Senator Hawley's office.
Hi, good evening. First of all, my name is Alex Lawrence, and like the mayor said, I am a field representative in Senator Hawley's office here in the St. Louis region. And just wanted to say thank you to the council and the mayor for the opportunity to be here tonight. Just wanted to give a brief update on our federal casework capabilities. It is by far the #1 way that we're able to interface with the community and to serve constituents when they come up against issues with federal agencies. So I'm not sure how familiar you all are personally with federal casework, but the #1 things that tend to pop up for us and constituents are issues with the Social Security Administration, issues with the IRS and tax returns, passport problems, and then helping to provide care for our veterans with the VA. So like I said, it's a great way for us to serve the community and our constituents all over the state and here in St. Louis. I can say personally, our casework team are some of the hardest working, most servant-hearted people that I've had the privilege of knowing. And so constituents can know that when they come through our office with an issue with a federal agency, they're going to get somebody that's going to work really hard to get them the answers that they need and hopefully the help that they need as well. I think a lot of these federal agencies have some really good people that work with them, but unfortunately, due to just the size and scope of the government, there are oftentimes things that get miscommunicated or things that fall through the cracks. So it really is a great joy for our office to get to hopefully stand in the cracks for those people and get them the help that they need too. So just want to say thanks for letting me be here. If there's ever anything that we can do for the residents of Webster or for the city, please don't hesitate to reach out to us where we'd be happy to serve. And I left some of my business cards as well. So thank you so much.
Great. Thank you for being here. We appreciate it. Mr. Ed Golterman is next, please.
Thank you, Mayor, for getting me here today. I've often gone to meetings on the wrong days and the wrong nights and everything else. I'm a visitor from Kirkwood, Missouri. Last time I was here was 23 years ago in the battle to save the Ozark Theater. I'm not the Golterman that helped you win a vital case in the state capitol, I guess, a couple of years ago. I'm very glad you won that case. But it was kind of mixed feelings because I had my magnificent exhibit of the Coliseum and the Muni and the Keel out in Chesterfield Mall. So I had to kind of tiptoe around Bob Nation a little bit, but I'm glad you still won. I can't see you because I left my glasses at a concert I did last weekend over in O'Fallon, Illinois, but they promised to send them to me. I won't take 3 minutes. Across the street, you have either an asset or a liability, the Ozark Theater. The way you view this will have tremendous effect on the revenue flow and the tax revenue flow for your city for a long time to come. You deal sometimes, and all institutions deal sometimes with good investments, bad investments, good public-private partnerships, bad public-private partnerships, assets, liabilities. I'd like to make a comparison because I think it's valid, although they're different sizes. The historic Kiel Opera House has proved the greatest economic stimulus in downtown St. Louis in many, many years. It saved the St. Louis Blues 12 years ago, and then it catalyzed the project after project after project after project to what is going to be opening next week out on Jefferson. I'm saying that you have a mini Kiel Opera House here across the street. That's all I'm going to give you tonight. Thank you.
Leave them wanting more, right?
What?
Leave them wanting more. Is that the?
I will leave something.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Golterman. We also have Mr. Dave Buck for a return visit this evening.
Only one comment a night.
Public hearing.
Dave Buck, 124 South Elm. I tried to do this several years ago. Laura Arnold paid me a visit at my house, not as a council member, but as a friend, a very dear friend. And she kind of talked me out of it. But I'm here to say tonight that this is my last remarks of the community of visitors. And it has to be. And here's the reason why. I turned 70 in April. My dad, my grandfather, and my great-grandfather all died at 80. So I figure I have 10 years left. But I am mostly like my mom. She is bipolar, I'm bipolar. She died of Alzheimer's. I'm a prime candidate to get it. She died at 74. So it is carpe diem for me. I have to move. I have to get going. I can't wait. The game is afoot, so to speak. So the last meeting, I mentioned 3 things that I want to do: help advance the arts, help stop the decline of the Black community, and help stop the divide and the divisiveness in this town and try to bring the town together. It's been a busy 2 weeks, but we will be doing in 2023, 10 community events, 4 in the spring, 1 in the summer, 5 in the fall. And I have allies who are on board. They're all different and they're going to be great. And they're going to be a lot of fun. And I think they can bring the community together. So even though I'm not going to be coming here and seeing your smiling faces, I am open for business on one-on-one meetings. I hang out at 4 places: Redco, Garden Cafe, Starbucks, and for breakfast, Boardwalk Cafe. And at all places, it's my treat. In fact, I sat down with Reverend Eric Hayes Monday at the Boardwalk Cafe. I happily paid for it. God, we had a great conversation. So anytime you want to know what's going on with me, going on with the events, just want to talk about stuff, you have my name, you have my number, you have my email address, contact me, and I'll be happy to sit down with you anytime. And I will pay 100% happily, joyfully. So Marie, Neil, Sarah, Emerson, Pam, Laura, David, Karen, Emily, Katie, and Eric the Red. Thank you very much. I'll be coming to meetings and stuff. I just won't be talking here. So, thanks.
All right. Thank you very much, Dave.
Thanks, Dave.
Did you hear that, Dave? Yeah. You had like 3 seconds left. Good for you. All right. Do we have members of the council, city attorney, city manager with new business items? Oh, please. That's fine. And we forgot to check. I forgot to ask you to check online. So you saved me from that. Would you mind sending the card around, please? Thank you. And if you'll give us your name and address, please.
Yes, my name is Jen Audetta. I live at 550 Cannonberry, and I am a lifelong resident of Webster Groves, with the exception of about 10 years when I lived in Madison, Wisconsin. While I was there, I covered many city council meetings as a television producer for the CBS affiliate, the Madison Common Council, as they're referred to. And I would be doing a disservice if I didn't speak up about 2 issues this evening. The first one is public safety and what was not or what proceeded regarding lack of fire services in the south side of Webster. I live in the south side. I'm deeply concerned that members of the council appeared to show disregard or lack of concern for services that were rendered to our area over the last month. I am deeply concerned that we are giving check marks and carte blanche to someone to be able to call a fellow resident's employer via the fire department and say that they were out of line. I think that is unacceptable, a gross overuse of your power, and a complete disregard for the public service that you have been hired to do. The fact that no one, overmodulated, on this council has reached out to Mr. Grosenhyder, with the exception of one person, to find out about this overreach and misuse is absolutely admonishable. I beg you to investigate what was done, why his employer was called, and I am asking you to please put forward any documents related to the Freedom of Information Act and the responsibility to provide public service and safety equipment to the residents of South Webster. That's it.
Right. Thank you very much. Do we have online comments at all? All right. I asked whether we had new business. It sounds as we do not. We do have some unfinished business. I always look for you in the back of the room. So I think, Mara, we probably need to go ahead and have you talk to us before we do the third reading, right? Because amendments we may want to actually put this off in terms of the third reading and the vote for another meeting, but go ahead. I know you have amendments that you've prepared. If you'll go ahead and tell us what you're going to share.
Sure, I did. So we did have people listened to the meeting and had information. I had the property owner on Eldridge reach out who did want to be removed and was pleased to have listened and heard the conversation by the council. We had the member who came to the meeting itself who wanted to be removed off of Simmons. And then I had one other resident reach out specifically to ask to be removed. I had other residents reach out who said, I just assumed that we would reach out to you if we didn't want to be included. We were happy to be included. So I had both reach out. It was quite nice, had some good conversations. So I did prepare it that if we were to remove, if you did want to vote this evening, I have it shown for removing the Eldridge property and the other two. It was in multiple places in the ordinance, so I wanted to give you one that had all the red line amendments, if that's how you wanted to move forward.
Okay. Are there questions for Mara?
Thank you for doing it.
Thank you.
Do we need to wait any longer, or are we ready to vote on this evening?
I'm ready to vote.
I'm okay with that.
All right. So then, Councilmember Franklin, will you call for the third reading, please? Thank you very much, Mara.
And then we'll need a motion for the
Yeah.
amendment as well.
So should I move?
Third reading first, or do we do the amendment?
We have to
first?
do the amendment first. If
Yes.
Would you
Right.
do the amendment then?
Madam
please?
Mayor, I'd like to call for the adoption of
the amended version
the amended
of
version
Bill 9213.
of Bill number 9213.
Second.
All right. Comments or questions on the amendment? We'll go ahead and have a vote on the amendment then,
Yes,
please.
Mayor. Councilmember Bliss,
Yes.
Councilmember Franklin,
Yes.
Councilmember Smith,
Yes.
Councilmember Alexander,
Yes.
Councilmember Richardson,
Yes.
Councilmember Hickson Shepherd,
Yes.
Mayor Arnold.
Yes. Right. Councilmember Bliss, could you call for the third reading of the amended Bill number 9213, please?
Yes, Mayor, I'd like to call for the third and final reading of the amended Bill number 9213 and its subsequent adoption.
Second.
Bill 9213 as amended, third reading. An ordinance designating and establishing the structures located at 101 Eldridge. Which one am I taking out? Are these the ones?
Here.
Thank you. All right. At 101 Eldridge Avenue, 121 Eldridge Avenue, 125 Eldridge Avenue, 604 Fair Oaks Avenue, 324 Hazel Avenue, 330 Hazel Avenue, 441 South Maple Avenue, 208 West Old Watson Road, and 676 Plateau Avenue,
as city
Plateau
designated.
Avenue as city designated historic landmarks in the city and matters related thereto.
Right, is there any discussion? All right, let's have that vote then, please.
Yes, Mayor. Councilmember Franklin,
No.
Councilmember Smith,
Yes.
Councilmember Alexander, Councilmember Richardson.
Yes.
Councilmember Hickson Shepherd,
Yes.
Mayor Arnold,
Yes.
Councilmember Bliss.
Yes.
All right, Bill number 9213 as amended has passed. Councilmember Smith, could you call for the third reading of Bill number 9214, please?
Yes, Mayor, I'd like to call for the third and final reading of Bill 9214 and its subsequent adoption.
Second.
Bill 9214, third and final reading. An ordinance levying the cost of abating certain nuisances, removal of grass, weeds, and limbs, etc., as special tax bills against the properties hereinafter described and constituting levies as liens on the respective properties.
Is there any discussion? All right, let's have the vote, please.
Yes, Mayor. Councilmember Smith,
Yes.
Councilmember Alexander,
Yes.
Councilmember Richardson,
Yes.
Councilmember Hickson Shepherd,
Yes.
Mayor Arnold,
Yes.
Councilmember Bliss,
Yes.
Councilmember Franklin.
Yes.
All right, Councilmember Richard, is there anyone who would like to remove anything from the consent agenda? All right, Councilmember Richardson?
Yes, Mayor, I'd like to call for the approval of the consent agenda.
Second.
Councilmember Alexander,
Yes.
Councilmember Richardson.
Yes.
Councilmember Hickson Shepherd.
Yes.
Mayor Arnold,
Yes.
Councilmember Bliss,
Yes.
Councilmember Franklin,
Yes.
Councilmember Smith.
Yes.
All right, we do not have appointments to boards and the commissions this evening. We do need to reopen our closed session or resume our closed session. Could I have a motion to do that? We'll do
And
it.
we would add as an additional consideration, 0.62102 subsection 3.
Okay,
1, 3, and 4 then.
Yes, ma'am.
yes.
Yes, Mayor, I'd like to call for an executive closed session related to attorney-client privilege communications, Missouri statute 610.021, open parens 1, close parens. Personnel, Missouri statute 610.021, open parens 3, close parens, and negotiated contract, Missouri statute 610.021, open parens 12, close parens.
Thank you.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Second.
Councilmember
We're going to
Richardson.
vote and then yes.
Sorry, my first. Yes.
Yes. Councilmember Hickson Shepherd,
Yes.
Mayor Arnold,
Yes.
Councilmember Bliss,
Yes.
Councilmember Franklin,
Yes.
Councilmember Smith,
Yes.
Councilmember Alexander.
Yes.
Okay, just so we don't get up.
That's it. That's it.
David, what time's coffee?